Of reading now from Matthew's Gospel, the 5th chapter. Listen now for the word of the Lord. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but it is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish the law, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, friends, you are salt and light. You are salt and light. How do you hear that? How does that strike you? Do you believe me? Do you think I'm talking to everybody but you? You are salt and light. It's a series of Snickers commercials a few years back, probably remember them, where some poor fellow was had been struck in the head, and they asked him a series of questions to see if he has had a concussion, and you probably remember he answers everything fine until they ask him who he is, and he says, "I'm Batman," right? And while we've come to realize that head injuries really aren't a laughing matter, but the commercial plays on the fact that what we say about ourselves and what is true about ourselves isn't always the same thing, right? If Jesus says something is true about us, it is true. This is God. God who said, "Let there be light," and there was light and is light. If Jesus says we are salt and light, we are salt and light. And so when Jesus declared us all in the church to be salt and light, the church, whatever else it might be, is the place where salt and light gather. The church is where the salt of the earth and the light of the world gather. And it's not a matter of how many people gather, but a matter of how much light is shown. How much light do we see when we gather? How much do we resemble Jesus' remark? How well do we live in that declaration? You're the salt of the earth, he says. You are the light of the world. And just to remind you, we just wrapped up a sermon series on order and disorder and reorder, and we said that was a spiritual progression that we often go through in life. We think that we have things neat and tidy, and then something comes and disturbs that, and through that, if we allow it, if we allow God to work in that experience, we can learn and grow and mature in our faith and be sanctified evermore. Reordering often involves some new form of vision Vision is important. It's spoken of in the Bible frequently. This is a new vision, this idea of being the salt of the earth, the light of the world. It's a new vision that Jesus is giving the people who probably didn't really feel like they were salt and light. We may not always feel like it either. But it's a powerful new vision to inspire us to be those things that Jesus says we are. Psalm 112 also speaks of a new vision. Happy are those who revere the Lord. Their descendants will be mighty in the land. Wealth and riches are in their houses, and their righteousness endures forever. This is a powerful vision the psalmist is giving us. They rise in the darkness as a light for the upright. That's an amazing vision. They are gracious, merciful, and righteous. Their hearts are firm, secure in the Lord. Their hearts are steady. They will not be afraid. This is a powerful vision to hold on to grasp onto. It's a wonderful image, and it's so strong that even we are told the wicked see it and are angry. They gnash their teeth and melt away. The desire of the wicked comes to nothing against those who revere the Lord. Visions like this, visions like this psalm, visions like Jesus' proclamation that we are salt and light can take us into this reorder that we've been talking about, this sense of renewal, revitalization, revival. Vision can give us aspirations. Without vision, Scripture teaches us that people perish. This week, as many of you know, I was at Austin Seminary. I go there twice a year generally for alumni meetings and lectures. And on my way home a couple days ago, what should have been about a 7.5-hour drive turned into a 14-hour drive. That was not my vision for the day. But visions of home, let me tell you, kept me going because it was quite a challenge. I had some mechanical issues with my car, and I had to have it towed to a local shop, and there were some weather concerns. There was snow in the forecast through some of the route that I was taking, and in fact, when I got on the road later, there were trucks I was driving by that were covered in snow and dropping clumps of snow on the highway. I didn't see snow myself, but it was there. At one point, I got pulled over. I was not speeding or doing anything wrong. Just have to say that. It was one of my license plate bulbs had burned out, and the officer was telling me I needed to replace it. But visions of home kept me going. And some blessings from God along the way. Blessings that God sent me in the form of some wonderful people. Like the tow truck driver, who as soon as he picked me up, he went through the drive-thru at the restaurant right next door to where he picked me up, and I thought, okay. Turns out he ordered 2 sandwiches and gave me one of them. And then we get to the shop, and the gentleman at the shop, took me into the mechanic bay and opened the hood and showed me the part that if the problem I was having happened again while I was on the road, showed me what to do in there, a lever to flip that would make the problem go away. And then they didn't charge me a penny. The cheerfulness of the sandwich maker when I stopped for dinner asked me how my day was and actually seemed interested when I told them, well... Even the police officer who pulled me over asked me if I'd driven through the snow, seemed concerned about how I was doing. We had a fun conversation about snow in the area in Texas. These kindnesses directed at me, the weary traveler I received as blessings on a trip taking almost twice as long as it should have. But for me, these people were salt and light. They were salt and light. Dr. Marcia Y. Riggs, in the commentary section of your bulletin, says that we are disciples of Jesus when we allow our characters to be formed by God's blessings. How many blessings have we received? Even in the midst of the inconveniences and messiness of life. How many times do we get blessings like that? People who will walk along with us, remind us we're not alone. People who show us compassion, strangers even. That's a vision. That's a vision of light and a taste of saltiness. And we're going to be talking about vision the next couple of months. There's a series of words that our church's session last week when we had our session retreat honed in on as 7 words to help cast a vision about who we think we are, who we think we're called to be, and who we can live into being more fully. That is, yes, we're salt and light, but we can be that more fully, more richly, more abundantly, more obviously to the world around us. And those 7 words that we're going to use as guiding words for some time to come for the church are together, humility, inclusivity, outreach, clarity, delight, and courage. Those are great words. I do pray that we live into them boldly in the months, years to come. But today I just want to say a few words about clarity. If we're going to cast a vision, there should be clarity about it. It's so important in an age of confusion, right? Where there's a lack of common narrative in our society. We can't even agree on what's happening around us, right, as a people. It's hard to find clarity out there. We have talk of fake news and relative truth. What are we clear about? What are you clear on? I think here in this place we are clear about Jesus, that our relationship with Jesus is one of the purposes of our being and the most important thing that we can seek in life. That in Jesus we have salvation, that we have Jesus' love for us, but also as a blessing to share with others that transforms the world. And we have Jesus' teachings, the way that he lived and the things that he taught us to do to have a better life and to work for a better world. I think that is something we have clarity on in the church. And we should strive to communicate with clarity, to be salt and light. So let's be clear on that, because clarity does matter. There's a big difference between being salt and light and being lightly salted. Clarity matters, doesn't it? We want to be salt and light. And I haven't forgotten that our church's slogan for some time now has been seek, and that is true. We are seeking, we're ever seeking. We may not always have full clarity. We may not always understand fully or be able to communicate to others fully what we think we understand. We're seeking clarity together in humility, which is one of those other words we're going to talk about soon. But clarity matters. It matters that we know what we mean as a church, and it matters that we know what we mean as individuals. And it's actually what people report when they visit a church. One of the 3 main turnoffs that people tend to report when they visit a church is lack of clarity. They don't know what they believe. Do we have clarity about what we stand for here? Do we have clarity about what our message is to the world? How can we find that clarity and live in it more fully? I want to practice, actually, today, finding clarity for ourselves. I'm going to give you an opportunity. I want to take a moment. I'm going to be about 10, 12 seconds to consider how you can be salt and light to someone in your life or someone you encounter this week. Just think about it in silence. How are you going to share the love of Jesus this week? I'll give you 10, 12 seconds just to think about that. Hopefully everybody has something they can do. Something they can do. Maybe it's a situation you're pondering and you're trying to think about how to be salt and light in that situation. A way that we can do that for others. I want you now to find someone close to you in your pew, and you're going to share something about that, if you would. If it's a private matter, just give them a hint of what it is. But go ahead and take about 10 seconds to tell your pewmate and then listen to their response. Start with a smile. You can be salt and light to them too. And share your pewmate with your pewmate with clarity how you'll be salt and light this week. This is one instance where it does a pastor's heart good to hear all kinds of people chattering during the sermon. Because I know you're talking about doing all kinds of great and good things for people in your life, in your sphere of influence, maybe just strangers that you meet along the way, weary travelers who need some kindness, need some encouragement. That is being salt and light. Let's be clear about our message of love, grace, and mercy to others. Amen.